The signal from beyond. The alien exploration vessel, Nexeri, drifted silently through the void, its sleek azure hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. Captain Xerxes stood on the command bridge, his 4 arms folded behind his back as he gazed at the holographic display. His iridescent scales shimmered with anticipation. The Nexeri had ventured farther into uncharted space than any Corellian vessel before, and Xerxes was determined to make discoveries that would cement his place in history. "Captain, we're detecting an unusual signal," announced Science Officer Tella, her slender fingers dancing across the control panel. Her antenna twitched, a sign of both excitement and concern. "It's coming from Sector 7 Gamma, near the edge of the restricted zone." Xerxes' inner eyelids flicked with interest. The restricted zone, established by the Galactic Council over 300 cycles ago after the Human-Archean War. Humans were a relatively new species to interstellar travel, but they had quickly established a reputation that made even the ancient Voldari uncomfortable. "What kind of signal?" Xerxes asked, moving closer to Tella's station. "Unknown format, sir. It's not matching any communication protocols in our database," Tella replied. "But the pattern suggests intelligence, not natural phenomena." Chief Security Officer Krav, a hulking Duraxian with armored skin and piercing yellow eyes, growled from his station. "Captain, may I remind you that Council Directive 472 expressly forbids contact with human technology without proper authorization." "I'm aware of the regulations, Krav," Xerxes replied dismissively. "But we're explorers, not bureaucrats. If there's something of scientific value, it's our duty to investigate." His scales pulsed with determination. "Besides, the directive is just a precaution. The humans haven't been active in this sector for decades." Krav's crystalline skin hardened, his species equivalent of a frown. "The stories about human technology aren't just stories, Captain. The Archeans learned that the hard way." "The Archeans were warmongers," Xerxes countered. "We're scientists. Set course for the signal origin, Commander Neal. Standard approach protocol." As the Nexeri changed course, an uncomfortable silence fell over the bridge. Everyone had heard the stories. Tales of human ships that could think, weapons that bent reality, and defenses that adapted to any attack. But stories were just stories, embellished over time. Weren't they? Hours later, the Nexeri dropped out of faster-than-light travel, emerging into a remote star system dominated by a dying red giant. The signal was stronger now, emanating from what appeared to be a derelict vessel drifting in a stable orbit around a small rocky moon. "Magnification on screen," ordered Xerxes. The view screen flickered, and a collective gasp rippled through the bridge crew. The ship was unmistakably human in design, angular and utilitarian compared to the elegant curves of Corellian architecture. Its dark hull was marked with faded symbols in the human script, and though it showed signs of age and damage, it was massive, at least 3 times the size of the Nexeri. "Can you translate the markings?" Xerxes asked, his voice hushed with anticipation. Tella worked quickly. "Ship designation, UES Prometheus. Some kind of human military or scientific vessel, I believe." "Scan it," Xerxes commanded. "I want to know if there are any life signs." Krav stepped forward. "Captain, I must formally protest. Scanning the human vessel could trigger automated defense systems. The Council regulations specifically warn against." "Your protest is noted," Xerxes interrupted. "Proceed with the scan, Tella. Minimal energy signature, passive systems only." Tella hesitated but complied. "No detectable life signs, Captain. Power readings are minimal, just enough to maintain basic systems and transmit the signal. The ship appears to have been abandoned, possibly for years." Xerxes' 4 hearts quickened their pace, a fully intact human vessel, ripe for study. The scientific breakthrough would be unprecedented. His name would be spoken with reverence in every academy across the Alliance. "Prepare a boarding team," he declared. "I'll lead it myself." "Captain," Krav's protest was sharper now. "This is beyond reckless. Even dormant human ships have been known to. That's enough, security officer, Zyrex said coldly. If you're afraid, you're welcome to remain aboard the Nexeri. Krav's yellow eyes narrowed. I'll assemble the security detail. The shuttle bay bustled with activity as the exploration team prepared. 12 crew members in total, Zyrex, Tella, Krav, and 9 others, including security personnel and specialists in xenotechnology. They wore sealed environmental suits, not just for protection against unknown atmospheres, but as a precaution against the biological agents humans were rumored to have developed during their wars. As they boarded the shuttle, Medical Officer Jem approached Zyrex, her luminous eyes full of concern. Captain, I prepared emergency medical kits for the team, but I must warn you, our knowledge of human defensive measures is limited. Their technology often incorporates elements we don't fully understand. Zyrex placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Your concern is noted, Doctor, but the vessel appears inactive. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. The shuttle departed from the Nexari, crossing the void toward the human ship. As they drew closer, the true scale of the Prometheus became apparent. What had seemed large from a distance was, in reality, colossal. Look at the design, marveled engineering specialist Fox, pointing at the hull. Those aren't just armor plates, they're reactive matrices of some kind. And those ports, added Tella, indicating recessed areas along the hull. Weapon systems, but unlike any I've seen in the archives. The shuttle circled the massive vessel, eventually locating what appeared to be a docking bay. The doors were partially open, just enough for their small craft to enter. It's like it's inviting us in, whispered one of the junior officers. Or it's a trap, Krav muttered. The shuttle slipped through the opening, entering a cavernous hangar. Emergency lights cast an eerie red glow across rows of smaller craft. Human fighters and transport vehicles, all secured in docking clamps. Atmosphere is present, reported Tella, checking her instruments. Composition is similar to standard life support parameters. Temperature is low but within tolerance. Maintain suit protocols regardless, Zyrex ordered as the shuttle touched down. We take no unnecessary risks. The team disembarked cautiously. Their footsteps echoed in the massive chamber, the sound swallowed by the darkness beyond their light beams. The air had a stale quality, the unmistakable stillness of a place long abandoned. The signal is coming from deeper within the ship, Tella said, consulting her scanner. Approximately 2 kilometers inward, near what I believe is the command center. Then that's where we're headed, Zyrex declared. Krav, secure our exit. Vox, see if you can access any of the ship's systems from here. The team moved through the vessel, passing through corridors scaled for beings larger than themselves. Human architecture was different, more angular, with an emphasis on function over form. Strange symbols and color codes marked various doors and junctions. They were so practical, Tella observed, fascinated despite her apprehension. They were predators, Krav replied grimly. Everything they built reflected that nature. As they ventured deeper, the ship began to feel less abandoned. Lights flickered on ahead of them. Door systems hummed to life, and recycling units began to purr. The vessel is reactivating, Vox said nervously. It's responding to our presence. Can it detect us specifically? Zyrex asked. Unknown, Vox admitted, but these systems aren't just turning on randomly. There's a pattern, almost like it's creating a path for us. Tella finished, her antenna rigid with tension. They continued forward, following the awakening corridors deeper into the massive ship. Eventually, they reached a secure door larger than the others, marked with human symbols that Tella hastily translated. Central Command, she read. This is it. The signal's origin is just beyond. Open it, Zyrex commanded, unable to contain his excitement. The door slid open smoothly, revealing a vast circular chamber. Unlike the rest of the ship, this room was fully illuminated, holographic displays hovering in the air, control stations arranged in concentric circles around a central platform. And on that platform, A swirling column of light pulsed gently. "Magnificent," breathed Zyrex, stepping forward. "Some kind of data storage system, or a communication device." "Captain," Krav called sharply. "The door." They turned to see the massive door sliding closed behind them. Krav rushed toward it, but it sealed with a definitive thud before he could reach it. "We're locked in," he growled, drawing his weapon. "Calm yourself, security officer," Zyrex said, though his own hearts were racing. This could be an automated security protocol. A low hum filled the chamber, and the column of light expanded, colors shifting through patterns too complex to follow. Then, without warning, it coalesced into a form, a human figure, translucent and luminous, standing before them. "Welcome aboard the UES Prometheus," it said in perfect galactic standard. "You have violated restricted space and boarded a United Earth vessel without authorization." Zyrex stepped forward. "I am Captain Zyrex of the exploration vessel, Nexeri. We received your signal and came to investigate. We mean no harm." The hologram tilted its head, studying them with eyes that seemed too aware for a simple recording. "My signal was a warning, not an invitation," it replied. "But since you're here, I must ask, what were you hoping to find, Captain Zyrex?" Before Zyrex could answer, Tella gasped, her scanner beeping urgently. "Captain, this isn't a recording or a standard A. These energy patterns, it's a full human consciousness matrix." The hologram smiled, the expression sending chills down Zyrex's spine. "Correct, science officer. I am Dr. Ileana Reeves, or rather, a digital preservation of her mind. I was the lead researcher on Project Prometheus." "Impossible," Krav snarled. "Even humans couldn't transfer consciousness." "Yet here I stand," the hologram replied calmly. "One of many advancements we made during the war your people know so little about." Zyrex felt his scales tighten with fear, but his scientific curiosity burned stronger. "What is Project Prometheus? Why was this ship abandoned here?" The hologram's smile faded. "Who said the ship was abandoned, Captain?" With that, the floor beneath them trembled. Throughout the massive vessel, systems roared to life. Engines, weapons, shields. On the bridge of the Nexeri, the crew watched in horror as the human ship began to glow with power, shedding its dormant disguise like a predator revealing its true form. And deep within the Prometheus, Captain Zyrex and his team realized too late that they had made a terrible mistake. They hadn't discovered an abandoned relic. They had awakened something that had been waiting all along. The intelligence within. Commander Vorel of the Corellian Defense Fleet stood rigid on the bridge of the Warship Decisive, watching the view screen with growing unease. Before them, the human vessel Prometheus loomed like a dark monolith against the stars, fully awakened and bristling with energy signatures that defied analysis. The Nexeri floated nearby, unresponsive to all hails for the past 12 hours. Still no communication from Captain Zyrex or his team. Vorel asked, though he already knew the answer. "None, Commander," replied Communications Officer Mira, her delicate features tight with concern. "The Nexeri systems appear operational, but no one is responding. And the human vessel," she hesitated, "it's watching us." Vorel understood her meaning all too well. There was something unnervingly conscious about the way the Prometheus had positioned itself, interposed between the Decisive and the Nexeri, as if deliberately preventing any rescue attempt. 3 more Corellian vessels had joined them, forming a defensive perimeter at a safe distance. The Council had been notified, and representatives from 6 species were en route to deal with what was quickly becoming a diplomatic crisis. Unauthorized contact with human technology was strictly forbidden for precisely this reason. "Commander," called Tactical Officer Jex, "we're detecting movement. The hangar doors on the human vessel are opening." All eyes turned to the view screen. A small shuttle emerged from the Prometheus, the Nexeri's own boarding craft. It moved slowly, deliberately toward the Decisive. "Scan it," Vorel ordered sharply. "One life sign," Jex reported. Corellian, its security officer Krav. Relief and suspicion warred within Vorel. Bring him aboard, but maintain quarantine protocols. I want a full medical and psychological evaluation before anyone speaks with him. Hours later, Vorel sat across from Krav in the ship's secure conference room. The security officer looked haggard, his crystalline skin dulled with stress, his yellow eyes haunted. Start from the beginning, Vorel said gently. What happened when you boarded the human vessel? Krav's account matched the preliminary reports. The discovery of the signal, Captain Zurex's determination to investigate, the boarding of the seemingly abandoned ship. Then came the revelation that chilled Vorel's blood. The ship contained a preserved human consciousness, a digital ghost that controlled the entire vessel. After it revealed itself, everything changed. Krav continued, his voice hoarse. The ship came alive around us. We were separated. I saw. He faltered. I saw things that shouldn't be possible. The walls shifted. Corridors rearranged themselves. It was toying with us. And the others? Vorel prompted. Alive, when I last saw them. The human intelligence. It calls itself Ileana. It kept them for study. It said I was being released as a messenger. Krav's eyes fixed on Vorel with sudden intensity. It wants to speak with the council representatives when they arrive. Vorel's inner eyelids flicked with surprise. It knows about the council delegation. It knows everything, Krav said flatly. It accessed our databases through Captain Zurex's command codes. Every piece of information in the Nexary's memory banks. It absorbed it all in seconds. What does it want? Understanding, Krav replied. Or so it claims. But, Commander, he leaned forward, lowering his voice though they were alone. There's something else aboard that ship, something the human intelligence is guarding. When I asked about the true purpose of the Prometheus, the temperature in the entire section dropped to near freezing. It told me some questions would be answered only when the time was right. 3 days later, the council delegation arrived, a hastily assembled group representing the major powers of the alliance. The diplomatic vessel Concord took position alongside the Decisive, and preparations were made for the unprecedented meeting. This is highly irregular, protested the Volderi ambassador, a tall, ancient being whose species had been traveling the stars when Corellians were still climbing trees. Negotiating with an unauthorized eye violates multiple treaties. With respect, Ambassador, Vorel replied, this isn't merely an eye. According to Officer Krav, we're dealing with a preserved human consciousness, a technological achievement we didn't think possible, and it still holds 11 Alliance citizens. All the more reason to approach with caution, added the Traxian representative, her insectoid mandibles clicking nervously. Humans were unpredictable enough in physical form. Who knows what evolutionary pressures shape a digital mind? Despite the objections, the meeting proceeded. A secure communication channel was established, and the holographic form of Dr. Eliana Reeves appeared in the Concord's conference room, startling the assembled diplomats with her lifelike presence. I appreciate your willingness to speak with me, she began, her voice calm and measured. Your crew members are unharmed and will be returned once our discussion concludes satisfactorily. That sounds like a threat, the Volderi ambassador said coldly. Merely an assurance of good faith, Eliana replied with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I've been alone a long time, Ambassador. Forgive me if my diplomatic skills have atrophied. Commander Vorel studied the hologram carefully, despite her human appearance. The strange, flat face with its forward-facing eyes, the unusual bilateral symmetry. There was something oddly familiar about her expressions, as if she had adapted her communication style to be more comprehensible to non-humans. How long have you been out here, Dr. Reeves? Vorel asked. The hologram turned to him. By your calendar, Commander Vorel, approximately 47 of your years. Long enough to observe your alliance expand into this sector, long enough to learn your languages, and long enough to understand that despite your council's precautions, you know dangerously little about what happened during the war. We know enough. The Traxian representative interjected. Humans and Arxians nearly destroyed an entire sector with their conflict. Is that what the records say? Ileana asked, seeming genuinely curious. How fascinating. History written by neither the victors nor the vanquished, but by the bystanders. She paced the room, her holographic feet making no sound. Let me tell you why the Prometheus is here, and perhaps then you'll understand why your captain's curiosity was so dangerous. The hologram waved a hand, and the room darkened. Three-dimensional images appeared in the air. Star charts, strange energy readings, and something that looked like a tear in the fabric of space itself. During our war with the Arxians, humanity discovered something. Or rather, something discovered us. Ileana's voice grew solemn. The Arxians were experimenting with dimensional technology, crude attempts to create shortcuts through space. Instead, they created a door, and something came through. The images shifted to show something that defied description. A writhing mass of shapes that seemed to violate the basic laws of geometry, radiating an energy that made several ambassadors physically recoil. We called it the breach, Ileana continued, a rupture between dimensions. What came through wasn't life as we understand it. It was something else, something that consumed. Planets, ships, even the fabric of space-time itself began to degrade in its presence. This is difficult to believe, the Volderi ambassador said, though his usual confidence had faltered. The evidence is still there. Ambassador, in the quarantine zone your council established without understanding why. You called it the dead sector and forbade travel there because nothing returns. The truth is, nothing can exist there anymore, not in any way you would recognize. Commander Vorel felt a chill despite the room's comfortable temperature. If this threat was so severe, why haven't we found any human records of it? Because we contained it, Ileana replied simply. At great cost. The Prometheus was part of Project Sentinel, a network of specialized vessels positioned around the perimeter of the affected space. We couldn't destroy the entities that came through the breach, but we could contain them, prevent them from spreading. And the Arxians? Asked the Traxian. Gone, Ileana said quietly. Their homeworld was the first to fall. By the time we understood what was happening, it was too late for them. In the end, our species cooperated. The few Arxian survivors joined our efforts. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The mysterious disappearance of the Arxian civilization had been one of the great unanswered questions of modern galactic history. If what you say is true, the Volderi ambassador finally spoke. Why operate in secrecy? Why not inform the Alliance? Would you have believed us? Ileana countered. More importantly, would you have resisted the temptation to study these entities, as your Captain Xerxes could not resist studying the ship? Some dangers are too great for curiosity. As if summoned by the mention of his name, Captain Xerxes' voice suddenly came through the communication system. Commander Vorel, he called, his voice tense. The human is telling the truth. She's shown us evidence that cannot be refuted, but there's more urgency than she's admitting. The hologram of Ileana stiffened, her expression shifting to one of alarm. Captain Xerxes, this is not the time. The containment is failing, Xerxes continued, speaking rapidly. The Prometheus isn't just a sentinel, it's a prison. Something is aboard, something the humans captured during their war. And it's waking up. The conference room erupted in chaos. Ambassadors shouting questions, security personnel moving to defensive positions. Through it all, the hologram of Ileana Reeves stood perfectly still, her digital features locked in an expression of resignation. It appears, she said when the noise had died down, that complete disclosure is now unavoidable. What followed was a revelation that would forever change the Alliance's understanding of both their own history and humanity's role in it. The Prometheus, Ileana explained, contained one of the entities that had come through the breach, a being of immense power, held in stasis by technologies that pushed the boundaries of physical law. The containment systems require maintenance, she concluded. That's why I activated the signal. not as a warning, but as a call for help. I've managed alone for decades, but the systems are degrading. Without intervention, containment will fail within a year. Why not just destroy it? Asked the Traxian representative. If it's so dangerous. We tried, Ileana interrupted. Conventional weapons had no effect. Nuclear detonation merely fed it energy. Even our most advanced quantum disruptors only injured it. No, the only option was containment and study, hoping to find a weakness. Commander Vorel, who had been silent during the explanations, finally spoke. And have you found a weakness? For the first time, the hologram of Dr. Ileana Reeves smiled genuinely. Yes, Commander. With time and observation, I discovered something crucial about these entities. They cannot comprehend cooperation. Their dimension operates on principles of constant consumption and competition. The concept of species working together, pooling knowledge, sharing resources, it's literally beyond their understanding. That's a philosophical weakness, not a tactical one, the Volderi ambassador observed. Philosophy becomes tactics when properly applied, Ambassador, Ileana countered. The entity can be defeated, but not by a single species acting alone. It would require technologies from at least 3 different civilizations, working in concert. An approach it cannot adapt to because it cannot understand it. In the days that followed, a remarkable shift occurred. The initial fear and anger gave way to cautious cooperation. Captain Zurex and his team were released, bringing with them detailed scans and analysis of the containment systems. Alliance engineers, working alongside Ileana's consciousness, began developing upgrades and modifications that incorporated technologies from multiple species. The Council, after much debate, officially acknowledged the threat and the long-standing human effort to contain it. A permanent research station was established near the Prometheus, staffed by scientists from 12 different species, all working to understand and ultimately neutralize the extradimensional danger. And at the heart of it all was the preserved consciousness of Dr. Ileana Reeves, a human who had sacrificed her physical existence to maintain an endless vigil, protecting species who had never known they were being protected. 6 months later, Commander Vorel stood in the observation lounge of the new station, gazing at the Prometheus. The human vessel no longer appeared ominous, its dark hull now adorned with new modules and systems contributed by Alliance engineers. It's ironic, said Captain Zurex, joining him at the viewport. The captain had remained as the Corellian liaison to the project, his initial recklessness transformed into dedicated purpose. We feared human technology because we didn't understand it, while humans were using that technology to protect us from something far worse. The Council is already discussing a formal alliance with Earth, Vorel replied. After centuries of maintaining distance, it seems we may finally learn to work together. Necessity born of survival, Zurex observed. As Dr. Reeves pointed out, cooperation may be our species' greatest strength. On the main screen of the research station, Ileana's hologram worked alongside alien scientists, her digital features animated with purpose. After decades of solitude, she had found not just assistance but understanding. The entity on board remained contained, studied now by the combined knowledge of a dozen civilizations. And beyond the station, the vast, uncaring universe continued its endless cycles, unaware that in this small corner of existence, ancient fears were giving way to something new. A recognition that despite their differences, the sentient species of the galaxy shared a common purpose. They were, in the end, facing the darkness together, their combined light holding back the shadows. Perhaps, Vorel thought as he watched the collaborative work unfold before him. That was the most important discovery of all.